Good morning, Bob. Morning.
Because the Gemara is going to talk about, in 1 minute, we're going to speak about the marauders, who are stealing the land, and we'll straighten that out. Then we're going to plunge into the terrible stories that happened at the time of the war and the destruction on Eretz Yisrael and the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. And Chazal is, and God forbid we would not criticize, but since Chazal was critical of the people of that time, and their criticism was that they were too timid to take a certain position, we have to learn the lesson and understand it. And there are times when you have to see your way through because that's what's necessary. And sometimes you have to be big enough to put yourself under pressure and find a way. We know that, I think it's Baba Ben Buta, if I'm not mistaken. It was a famous case we had in the Nedarim where a certain woman had a fight with her husband. And it can get pretty big. Husbands and wife fights can be serious. It's serious. There's real anger happens. The guy was so upset with his wife. He said, "You're out of here." He says, "Don't come back until you spit in the rabbi's eye. You go and you spit in the rabbi's eye." No, she goes to the base medrash. She got to spit in the rabbi. It's not respectful. You can't have a woman's going to stand up in the public and spit in the rabbi's eye. There's covenant Torah. You can't do it. You can't disgrace the Torah. The rabbi's thinking, what does he say? He says, and they had in their times, they had a certain, at the time, there was a certain issue, an eye ailment that was cured by spitting in the eye. So he gets up, he says, wait, anybody, I need help. Can anybody help? I need the spitting in it. Maybe you. Could you do it? He finds the woman, he says, maybe you could do the spitting in the eye cure for me. So she does it, she spits in his eye and he sends her home. There was another woman. The husband was so disgusted with her. He said, nothing about you is nice. Nothing. Not one thing about you is nice. Go and don't come back again till the rabbis find something nice about you. So she goes to the rabbis. So the rabbis are thinking, there must be something nice about her. She have nice clothing? No, terrible. Is she good looking? No, she's ugly. Everything else. There was some, they asked her, what about it? He said, how about this? No, she's filthy. They said, what's her name? Her name was Lachluchis, filthy. He said, they said, the name is beautiful. The name is so perfect. Go home. Send her home.
The name suits you perfectly.
Yeah. But what's the point? The point is that these things it's funny and it's endearing, but you know what it really means? It means it's your job. And I'm going to tell you one more story. You'll think, don't worry, I'm not late yet. Listen to this. There's a book called The Darkei Tshuva. It was written by the Munkachara, right? But now what's amazing about this book? It's on several sections in Yeridea. And it's a classic, it's a standard. In the old days, anybody learning Smicha used to keep this book around, but he quotes from 1,000 books. Now, today, that's not what I mean. Everybody got computers and discs and everything, But those days, if you wrote a book that quoted from 1,000 books, it means you knew what was written in 1,000 books. If he quoted 1,000 books, he knew 1,000 books. Incredible. In any case, in that book, there's a wonderful shaila, and I'll tell you what it is. Today, it's not a big deal. Today, men dye their hair. It's pretty common. But in those days, men did not dye their hair. It was considered tikkuni nashim. That was considered the ways of women. And there was a certain guy. It happens sometimes. He had a trauma, I guess. What happens? Sometimes it happens because of a trauma, sometimes physical trauma or emotional trauma, and he turned half white, half his body turned white. Half his hair turned white. His beard and his head down the middle. Half was white and half remained black. He was a young guy. Half his head was white, half was black. The guy writes to the Chacham. He says, "Look, can you help me out? I'm not trying to look beautiful." He says, "I want to. Yes, could I dye my hair black? I'm not doing tikkuni nashim." Yeah. So listen to this. That's what I'll tell you. So listen to this. So they argued that he better do a rabbi's held. He was allowed under these circumstances, could not do it to beautify himself anyway. It was medical. Lamaisa, they held that he's not allowed in those times. And they wrote back, however, they said nobody considers white hair beautiful. And therefore, you're allowed to bleach the black half white, they wrote back. And for me, since I'm a kid, that's one of my favorite teshuvas in the world. And I'll tell you why. The trick is not so brilliant, but why do I love it? Because they were sensitive to the asker. The question was, can I dye my hair black? The answer is no. Goodbye, Charlie. Sincerely yours. Love. See you next week. But they knew that wasn't the question. The person's question wasn't, can I dye my hair black? The question was, I look like a nut. Can you help me out? I look like a meshugana. Can you help me? The shaila wasn't finished until they solved the problem. I hope I'm communicating. That's the shaila. What are you, a piece of wood? That's the shaila. Can he dye his hair black? The guy said, I look like a maniac. Could you help me out? I hope I'm communicating. If you don't understand that, you can't be a rabbi. If you don't see, you can't be Jewish. If you don't understand, you can't do your job. That's what he's asking. A guy, you meet a guy you didn't see for 20 years. You're down the street, says, oh, wow, it's so great to see you. Hey, how about a cup of coffee? He said, no, I already had 2 today. Thank you. You're stupid. He's asking, we think he's asking about your gastronomic state. You piece of wood. You lump of clay. That's what he wants to know if you're thirsty. You're an idiot. The guy wants to talk to you. And the same thing over here. You have to have so in our Gemara, the introduction, which we'll read in a minute. What I said, listen, at times you can't. I'm sorry, you can't be that delicate. I'm sorry. There are times when times and the place demands that you stand up and you solve the problem. You understand? That's the point. And sometimes you got to kill yourself. If you've never cried, you never were a rabbi. Believe me. Believe me. If you're ever a rabbi, you cried. Believe me. Believe me, because I'm telling you, that's what happens. And you shake, and you go to bed shaking. I'm telling you, because of what you have to do. What you have to do. Hope I'm communicating. That's how I was taught. Understand? So we have to understand here. Everything, if we look at, we have a great comedy of errors. Everything could have changed. Everything could have been different. But it was different. There's a point. And God forbid, don't misunderstand me. I am not criticizing any rabbi that came before us. But the Gemara made a value judgment. You understand what I'm saying? The Gemara made a value judgment. And sometimes Hashem wants something. That's what's going to happen. But the Gemara made a value judgment. This time you have to stand up and you have to solve the problem. Your job's not done until you solve it. Yeah.
Hashem made the value judgment.
Huh?
Rabbis can continue to make these changes now.
Yes, and that's our job. Why are we still in exile? It's a very long time. We've been in exile for a ridiculous amount of time. The answer is that we haven't made the decision to change. That's why. We rejected God, we rejected his Torah, and we rejected Jews. And we're in exile for us to value Jews, to value God, and to value the Torah. I'm going to tell you one more thing quickly. Don't worry, I'm not late. Come on. Listen to this. Listen to this. I got to teach my class. Listen to this.
It's not a smicha.
This is my class. So I forgot what I want to just tell you. That's something so important.
You're talking about having to change to get out of exile.
All my life, since I'm a kid, I've never understood Tisha B'Av, and I've never understood the remaining of the destruction of the temple. Since I'm a little kid, I have read books about Jews in history. There's never been a greater love story in the history of the world than the Jewish people for God. There's never been greater sacrifice and greater faithfulness than the Jews for their God. We gave everything, our lives, our money, everything we had. To this day, every Jew who keeps the Torah today, he spends double and triple to buy kosher food and quadruple and I don't know how many times to send his kids to school and all these things. Every single Jew sacrifices every single day to daven, etc., etc. But there's never been a love story like this in history. And I challenge you, and I say, if you take all the wickedest Jews you ever met in your life, and you put them on one side of the scale, and you give me the rest of the Jews, they're not going to make a dent. The Jewish people are righteous. There's no question about it. And all my life, I'm telling you, listen, you're going to be shocked what I'm going to tell you. It always bothered me. What are you talking about? These Jews, my first father-in-law saw his family shot on the first day of the war. He was in slave labor throughout the war, kept his father's tefillin, came out of there with nothing, a slave and starving, and sent his kids back to yeshivas and kept the Shabbos and kept kosher. He doesn't get a base of Mikdash? Are you kidding? It's ridiculous. So listen to this. I've always been a fan of the, you heard of the Klosenberger Rav? Yes. I was always a fan. One Friday afternoon, I get a paper from Tzantz. He was Klosenberger Tzantz. I get a paper from Tzantz all the way from Netanya, to Yerushalayim. And they quote him, and he says the following, this, and he was the first time in my life I felt better. First time in life I had comfort. He said, any based in Hedya, listen to this. He says, any based in that is what? A layman. A based in of laymen, of uneducated people, knows that the Jewish people are Zakai. He knows that the Jewish people are meritorious. You listen to this? Anybody, any idiot knows that the Jews are meritorious. And anybody who knows the Torah knows that we are meritorious, we get the Beis Hamikdash. So why isn't it happening, he said? Because we rejected the laws of the Torah itself, he says. So we're not being judged by the laws of the Torah, he says. And the second that we take it back, we'll get it back. Isn't this incredible? First time I ever felt comfort in my life. You hear what he said? He said, here, if we're not going to say, he says, it's true. It's obvious, according to the laws of the Torah, that the Jewish people are meritorious. We should get a Beis Hamikdash. But we rejected the law. We rejected the Torah. So it's not following the rules. So the first time, my point is like this. The answer, what you asked me, the answer is that's right. What do you think? What do you think we're alive for? All my life it bothered me. Why are we alive? We're an anticlimax. All the greatest things already happened in the Jewish history. You think we're ever gonna be as great as our ancestors? You think anybody's gonna put the sacrifice that our ancestors did? It's never gonna happen. God bless everybody. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen again. Why are we here? We're an anticlimax. We're boring. We're boring. Why are we alive? The answer is because we can. Because we have a challenge, and in our time, in our place, if we do the right thing, you'll build a Beis Hamikdash. Oh, but you know what I just said? Yes, that's right. Right now, you and me and you, right now. Oh, otherwise, why do you think we're alive for? And the way that we speak to our neighbor every day, the way we treat each other in the synagogue every day, the way we relate to the Torah every day, that's going to decide now. I promise you what I'm telling you. Whether the Beis Hamikdash, not what some big tzaddik does someplace. What we do in this moment. And that's the answer. That's why I told you all these things. The answer is we can do it now, and that's the job. Otherwise, and the problem is, in the Jewish world, every time the summer comes, you know what's it called? A World War. They call it a font in the newspaper. When the war breaks out, it's called a war font. You know what I'm talking about? The newspaper. It's this. The letters are this big. It says war. The president declares war. Every summer there should be a Jewish paper with letters this big. Aye. Another summer and there's no Beis Hamikdash? It's a disaster. Jewish people should be up in arms every summer, every June, July. We should be freaking out. And the answer is we can, though. You know what I said? The answer is yes. You, me, now. And I believe it with all my heart. 1,000,000,000%. I haven't got any doubt whatsoever. Okay? Now let's read the page. You'll see what I'm talking about. That's what you got to rise to the occasion. We have to read sad stories. I don't want to, but we got to. Okay, so first of all, yesterday we said a very, I'll say it outside, I'll say it inside. Yesterday we said a strange thing. It sounded like no Goyim were stealing Jewish land during the war and only afterwards. That makes no sense. I mean, during the war, they weren't stealing the land in Judah, and afterward they were. It makes no sense. During the wars, when they would be stealing the land the most. So the Gemara is going to say, no, it doesn't mean that they weren't doing it. It means we didn't apply the law. And I'll explain it in 1 minute. Okay, let's take a look. You have to read the paragraph inside the Gemara. Okay, your nun hey, I'm on the base at the bottom, right where the Gemara starts. He says, now if the time when they were doing the war law of a secret come, if the Goyim weren't stealing Jewish land in that time, okay, afterwards, okay, then they were doing it after the war. It was less dangerous. How can you tell me they weren't stealing land? Rabbi Yehudi said, no, you're making a mistake. Here's why. No, during the war, they didn't apply the law of secret cone. Why? What's the law of secret cone? The law of secret cone, when the guy takes the Jew's land, the Jew is not giving up. He figures, oh, eventually I'll get it back. But during the war, the guy says, look, die or give me the land. The guy says, you got it. He gave it with his full heart. We have a rule, if you hang a guy up and say sell, and he sells, it's a sale. It still works. So during the war, when the Jew sold, he really sold it to the guy. So the law prohibiting the other Jew from buying it back didn't apply because the Jew really gave it to the guy. After the war, when the Jew gave the land to the guy, the Jew thought he's going to have recourse. So when the other Jew bought it, he had no rights to it. That's what it is. The Amar Abasi, Shlos Gezeres Gozer, and we'll spell it out inside. There were really three different periods in history. Gezer to come out to the first decree that the guy was made, called the Lokatio, If a guy didn't kill the Jew in those times, they would kill the guy for not killing the Jew. Mitziyasa, the middle decree, the second one, called the Kotim Lese Abazuzi. Anybody who kills, you're allowed to kill Jews, but you have to pay 4 Jews, not much money. Pay 2 bits. You pay a little bit of money. You can kill Jews still, but you have to pay a little fee. Okay. Later, Basrai said in the end, called the Catholic. Later, the Goyim said, no, if you kill a Jew, you're going to get killed. So what happened? So during the war, when they were allowed to kill Jews, then the law of secret code didn't apply, because when the Jew gave the Goyish part of the land, he keep it. He really gave it. He doesn't want to die. So the other Jew has a right to buy it back. We don't. Afterwards, when the Goy were not allowed to kill the Jews, when the Goy threatened the Jew said, look, I'll give it to him and I'll get it back eventually. So when the other Jew tried to buy it, he had no rights. Okay. Kamaisa umitziyasa. So the first 2 decrees, when they were allowed to kill the Jews, came in the Kotle Agav Unse Gamar Mikne. Since the Jew was really in danger of being killed, he really wholeheartedly gave it to the Goy. Basraisa, but in the end, when the Goy weren't allowed to kill Jews, Amri, the Jew, when he was threatened, he said, Lishkol, let the guy take it today. Tomorrow I'll take him to court and I'll get my money back. Amar Yochanan. Now we're going to start the story. Yochanan said, this is what I brought you. My dichtiv. Huh?
During the time after the war, what happened in Poland, that the Jews came back to the town, they killed them right on the spot.
Yes, they did. I know so many cases I can't tell you. I know families that came back and the guy said, why'd you come back?
And they turned around and shot them.
Yeah, what are you doing here? Who wants it? You're right.
It was terrible.
We come from holy people, and we have a
The Polish people were running. Everybody was full. Come on, Russia, give it back to them what they deserve.
I have a friend. He's from the Ukraine. I'm from the Ukraine, by the way. My family's from Ukraine. My family from near Kiev, right near Kiev. So my family's Ukraine. Yeah. So I have a guy, before I came here, he was in my congregation. The guy's from Ukraine. So I reckon, the Ukrainians, help the Ukrainians. Help the Ukrainians. He says they were the worst. He says we had loads of Ukrainian guards in the concentration camps. No Russians. He said, no Russians. So now listen to this. Don't worry. It's all fine. Amar Yochanan. So Yochanan says like this. Now he wants to introduce these stories. My dichtiv, what's written? Ashrei Adam Afachi Tamid. A person should always be afraid. Happy is a person. Umaksha libo yipol baro. When a person hardens his heart, he falls into bad times. A person has to realize and take care that things are not always going to be the way they think that they are. And a person has to act accordingly. You can't be so secure in what and complacent. You have to worry that things are going to change. And therefore we learn Kamsa bar Kamsa Charv Yushalayim. Because of the story of Kamsa bar Kamsa, the whole Yushalayim was destroyed. What that Atanigolasa on a rooster, because of it, a rooster and a chicken. Okay, Charv Tormako, the whole city of Tormako was destroyed. Ashaka the Rizpak, and for the side of a van of a vehicle, Charv Besar, a city of power, incredibly populated city, was destroyed. What was the story that this Yerushalayim was destroyed because of Kamsa Kamsa? The Hu Gabra, the Rachme Kamsa, a certain guy, his friend was named Kamsa, Ubaldavavi Bar Kamsa, and his enemy was named Bar Kamsa. Avid Sudasa, he made a feast. Amalei the Shmais, he said to his serving man, Zil, I see the Kamsa, bring my friend Kamsa to the meal. Also, I see La Bar Kamsa, by mistake, he went and he invited who? Bar Kamsa, his enemy. Ashkachi Davi Yosef, so the Balabayas saw his enemy sitting there. Amalei said to me, he said, what do you mean? Hey, you're my enemy. What are you doing here? My boy, Sacha, what are you doing here? Amalei said to him, so Barkam said, listen, once I'm here ready, he says, Shabkan, leave me alone. I'm sorry, don't embarrass me. Let me stay here. I'm here ready. Just let me sit. Okay, don't worry, I'll pay you everything I eat and drink. I'll pay you back. No, you won't lose a penny. Just don't throw me out. Amalei says, no, get out of here. You gotta go. I'll give you half the price of the meal of your all your expenses. Amalei says nothing doing. So I'll give you the price of the whole meal. Amalei said no. He
picked them up and threw them.
He took them by hand and he tossed them out. Amri says, since the rabbis were present while I was embarrassed this way below Machabe, and they didn't stop him, he said, what they must have agreed. Not necessarily, but that's what he thought. They agreed. So he went and he slandered the Jews. He says, I'm going to go and I'm going to slander the Jews by the Romans, by the court. Also, Amalei Caesar, he said to the Caesar, Mardavido, he said, the Jews are rebelling against you. Amalei, so the Caesar said to him, says, how do you know? Amalei says, go send a sacrifice to the base of English and see what happens. Now we're allowed to take sacrifices from goyim. We learn from the psukim that we're allowed to sacrifice goyish sacrifices. Chazi seem like God, send them a sacrifice and see if they're going to give it. You're going to see they hate you. Also, shada biyode aglatot. He sent them a very fine aglatot. Is either a calf that's the third grown or the third calf in the third born. So he says very fine meat. So he sent a very good calf. Okay, but how did the Kasi? But now, by Kamsa, while he was bringing the what he did was he put a boom in it. He put a flaw, a blemish in it. He blemished it, so it's also to sacrifice. Beneath us, I either did it in the upper lip. Okay, he did it in the sheer covering of the eye. He made a blemish, a place. What's the point? A place where for the goyim it's not considered a blemish, but the Jews consider it a blemish. A place where the guy's not going to understand.
Or cataract.
Yeah, that's what so I didn't say cataract because I don't know what's cataract. I know that it's a thin covering of the eye. That I do know. That's why I don't translate medical things because I'll explain to you afterwards. I'll explain you what. There's a reason why I don't do it.
A lot of us have had cataract surgery.
Yeah, they're in good health. So now what happened? So he blemished it. So notes he did it in a way that the guy's not going to understand. The guy doesn't think it's a blemish, and the Jew does. Sabar's Rabban on the carving. So the rabbi said, "Look, let's sacrifice it. Mishum shalom achas for the sake of peace. Here, we'll transgress. So we'll bring a blemished animal. So to save Jewish life, to save one Jewish life, we could do it. Certainly to save a whole nation, we can sacrifice it." He said, "No." He said, "Yom bali mumen craving like I'm sorry. If you do that, the people are going to make a mistake, and they're going to start to learn that you're allowed to bring blemished animals to the base of Mikdash." So the Mikdash, said, "Okay, well, then let's kill Bar Kamsa." They thought, let's kill Bar Kamsa, so he won't go back and tell. I said, "No, he wasn't worried about killing him. He's worried that people will learn the wrong halacha. That they're going to learn halacha is that if a guy makes a move, you kill him." It didn't bother me. He wasn't bothered they were going to kill him. That was okay. You can kill him. That doesn't bother me. Fine to kill him. The problem is people are going to make a mistake and think we killed him for making a blemish and not realize that we killed him for putting us in danger. Rav Yochanan, so Rav Yochanan said, this temerity, this delicacy of Rabbi Zechai ben Avkulas, he was so patient. You understand? It destroyed our house, the base of Mikdash, and burnt our sanctuary, and it put us into exile from our land. So, and now Shadar Ilabayu, he sent after him, Nir and Kesar. So they sent Nir and Kesar to come and kill the Jews. Kikati, when Nir and Kesar was on the way to destroy Yerushalayim, he did witchcraft, he did sorcery to see if he's going to win. Shada Gira Lemizrach, he shot an arrow to the east, and what happened? It fell on Jerusalem. Lamar, he shot an arrow to the west. It came back and fell in Jerusalem. He shot arrows in all four directions. Everywhere he shot the arrow, it fell in Jerusalem. And then he did a Jewish thing. He said to a kid, "Tell me what pasuk you're learning." The kid said, "I'm going to take vengeance on Edom, that's Rome, or take vengeance on Edom, Israel through my Jewish people." The kid told him, "You're going to get punished for hurting the Jews." So Nero said, God wants to destroy his own house. And he wants to cleans his hands on me. He wants to wipe his hands on me. He wants to kill the Jews and blame me. That's what he wants to use me, and he's gonna blame me for killing the Jews. Okay, what did he do? Arak was a guy, what a brilliant guy. Instead of running away, what did he do? He ran away and became Jewish. He converted. But nothing Remeir came from him. Shadri Elabayu Laspanias Kesar. So now he sent to Vespasian, also a ruler. They sent them to come and siege Jerusalem. He came and he sieged it for 3 years. And still, listen how rich the Jews were and how generous they were. The Jews, there were 3 guys in Yerushalayim. Between the 3 of them, they had enough goods to support the entire city. You're going to see for 21 years. Nakidim and Bar Girion, Bar Kabba Savua, Ben Tzitza Kesses. These 3 rabbis, these 3 rich men, and they each had nicknames for a special reason. Nakdim Ben Gurion, Shenokta Lacham Babura. He already has a history of kindness. Once upon a time, when the Jews came to the base of English, there was no water, and he went to a guy who had wells. He said, "Give me 12 wells, and I'll pay you back 12 wells by a certain date." And if I don't pay you back the 12 bells, I'm going to give you 12 talents of silver, a fortune. If I don't pay off the water, I'm going to pay you a fortune of money. And he borrowed it to help. He borrowed it to help the Jews who come into the Beis Hamikdash. He did the right thing. The time passed and it didn't rain. And there's no water in the wells, and he's going to have to pay this fortune of money because he can't pay back the water. And in the morning, you guys demanded him. I said, "Look, I have all day." All day, he said, "Listen, leave me alone, leave me alone." Finally, at the end of the day, he says, "Mincha time." He says, "Give me my money." He says, "Nope, I still have time." He said, "What are you nuts?" No, he goes and he begs Hashem. Comes down a storm, fills up the wells. Not only does he get enough water to pay it back, there's more water in the wells than when the guy gave it to him. Now, what the other guy owes him money. He says, "I gave it back and pay me the extra that I gave you." The guy says, "Slow down." He says, "You see, it's all dark. The sun's down already. It's too late. You didn't pay me the water in time. Give me back. Give me the silver." So he goes to the base. He begs Hashem, and Hashem puts away the clouds, and the sun pierces through the clouds, and you see really what? It's still daytime, and he was safe. So he's called Nagdima. Why? Because the sun punched a hole in the clouds, so he got the nickname Nagdima. This guy has a history of kindness. Ben Kalba Savua. Why is Ben Kalba Savua? Why is he got a name of a satisfied dog? What does that mean? Okay, this guy was so kind and so hospitable that anybody came in, his dogs have a hard time getting food. Anybody comes as hungry as a dog to his house, he leaves satisfied. Ben Tzitzis Akesses also what Tzitziso, his Tzitzis Nigrosa. He used to walk on cushions. He was so rich, and his Tzitzis would be dragging not on the ground, but on what? On the fine cushions. And Ikadamar said, some people say it means Shikistum Mutelis Ben Gedoli Rome. Some people say his cushion, his seat was among the nobles of Rome. So these three guys are very wealthy. One said, "Listen, I'll support the whole city with wheat and barley." One said, "I'll support the whole city with wine, with milcha and salt, the mishcha and oil." One said, "What? I'll support the whole city with wood." And the greatest praise was the guy who gave wood. Wood, you need a tremendous amount of wood in the relation to the amount of grain. The Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda would give his serving person the keys to all the storehouses, well, except bar mitzvah, but not the wood. Why? Because wood was so precious. He said, Rav Chisda, for one silo of wood, boy, you need 60 silos for one silo of grain. You need 60 silos of wood. The wood is you have to have a tremendous amount of wood. So these three guys were going to support the whole city. Amazing. They had enough wealth to support the city for 21 years. They could not leave the city for 21 years and be supported. But as usual, who shows up? The idiots, the ignoramuses, the primitives, biryonim, dunderheads, primitive Jews. And they said, the rabbi said to them, the rabbi said, "What? Let's go out and make peace with the Romans and save the city." These biryonim, these brutes, they wouldn't let the rabbis make peace. The brutes said to the rabbis, "Let's go out and make war. Let's fight them." Okay. The rabbi said, "You're not going to succeed. It's not going to work. We know God's not going to let you in." Okay. So these brutes, in order to force the issue, they went and they burnt down the storehouses of the grain and of the wood, because they wanted to force everybody to fight. Now the kafna, and instead, what happened? The whole city, which was easily supported, went into a famine and were starving. Martha Basbaita Satitu Yishalayim Hava. Martha Wasi, she's one of the noble one of Yishalayim, very rich. She sent her servant out, and she said, "Listen," he said, "Zayal Isli Smida. Go bring me fine flour from the market." By the time he got there, the fine flour was already sold. So he said, "Look, there's no more fine flour. Okay, but we have good clean bread, regular bread. At least this I have." She said, "Zilisis, give me regular bread." By the time he got there, that was sold. He came back. He said, "Leka is no more white bread anymore. Gush karam." But coarse bread, there's still coarse bread in the market. I'm lazy. I said, "Go get me coarse bread." By the time he got back, that was sold out. After Marmalade came back and said, "There's no coarse bread. All there is barley flour, cheap." Amarle said, "There's Zilai." "Oh, get me that." By the time he got there, that was sold. And we shliva besanim. She was barefoot Let me go out myself and see what's going on. She went out into the marketplace barefoot, but she was a very delicate person. She wasn't used to going out barefoot. Let me see if I can find something to eat. She got some filth on her foot. And she died. She was so delicate. She died from it. Okay, Kriala and the Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan said that's what the pasuk meant when it says Harakabach, the most delicate and most spoiled among you, whose foot never was had any tribulations, never was used to anything. Some people say some people say the reason she died was a different reason, because she ate the thrown away fig of Rabbi Tzadok. Why? We'll see in a minute what Rabbi Tzadok, when he was fasting, used to just suck out a little bit from the fig and throw the rest of the fig away. She ate that fig and she was disgusted and she died. So she became so disgusted she died. Rabbi Tzadok fasted for 40 years, hoping to avert the destruction of Yerushalayim. When he would eat something, he was so skinny from fasting, you could see the food going down his esophagus. When he ate something. And each day when he would eat after fasting, he couldn't take any food. He was so skinny. So they just bring him dried figs. He would just suck out some of the liquid and he throw the rest away. And she went. She was so disgusted when she was dying. She took all her gold and silver and threw it out into the marketplace. She said, "Hi, what good is this? What good is this gold and silver?" And behind the receiving, that's what the pasuk says. They're going to throw their silver out. Okay, this guy Abba Sikra, he was the head of the brutes. So Sholach Lei, so Yochanan Zaki sent a message. He says, come to me secretly. So Yochanan Zaki, he said to him, he said, why are you stopping us? Why are you stopping us from making peace with the Romans? Why are you stopping us? Okay, why are you stopping? Why are you doing this? Okay, because at least you're killing the whole city with starvation. Amarle, so Abba Sikra said to him, he said, my Abid, he said, what am I going to do? The rest of the brutes, if I say anything, if I disagree with them, they're going to kill me. Amarle, so he said to him, Chazili takantali the epoch. So Yochanan Zaki said, listen, then do this. Find a way to get me out of the city so I myself can go and make peace with the Romans. At least if I can't save everything, I can save something. I can make some fixing. Amarle, so he said to him, he said, what? He says, here's what you should do. Make believe that you're sick. Let everybody come and visit you. And while they come, put something stinking, put a stinking carcass in your house, okay? Okay, and leave it near you. And let everybody say that you died. They're going to think that you stink, that you're a corpse, that you're stinking already. Let everybody think that you died. Let your own students come and carry you out of the city, nobody else. Okay, why? Don't let anybody else carry you out. Because the truth is, everybody knows that it's easier to carry a living man than a dead man. Why a living man rearranges his weight, so it's easy to carry. So if he gets a stranger, they'll know that that even though we're going to try and make it look like we're carrying a dead man out, that anybody else who's not your friend is going to know that they're carrying a live man. So get your own students to do it. Okay, the inner yodi, the chayah called me because people know that a live person is lighter than a dead person. He did what he said. So two of his students, Eliezer and Yeshua, came from either side. When they came to the gate of Jerusalem to take him out to bury him, so the soldiers wanted to stab him to make sure he's dead. They said, no, you can't do that. He says, Yomer Rabban Dakar, our Sikra, who was there, he said, listen, no, they're going to say that the Jews stabbed their rabbis. So they wanted to
shake.
The Biryonim wanted to shake him or push him. He said, look, you can't shake him. They're going to say the rabbis are, that they shake the rabbis. They shake them up. So the Biryonim, the brutes, opened the door and let him walk out. Nafak, he got out of there. When he got to the Roman camp, he said, he said to Vespasian, Shalom Aleichem, king. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, king. I says, Amarle, Mischayav Trey Kotler. So Vespasian said to him, you're liable to 2 death penalties. Chada the love malkan of a car, malka. 1, I'm not a king and you call me king, you have to be killed for that. But 2, and secondly, Imalkan, if I am a king, then why did he come to me before now? So for that reason, he should also be killed. Twice he should be killed. Amarle, so Yochanan Zaki said to him, what you said to me firstly that you're not a king, he said it's not true. He says, Iba Malkat, the truth is that you are a king. The love Malkat, if you are not a king,
Lo mimsara Yushalayim biyadach. He said, what? Yushalayim would never be given over to you. And the fact that you're conquering Jerusalem proves, I know from the Psukim, that you are a king. Okay, why? Because the Pasuk says, well, Lebanon, which you'll see in a minute, is the Beis Hamikdash, but Adir Yipol is going to fall to the end of a king. I mean, Adir Elamelech, the word Adir has to be a king. To see why Adir Mimenu, the king, it's going to be a king. Lebanon, the Beis Hamikdash, Lebanon is the Beis Hamikdash. Remember, Har Tova, Lebanon. So we know that only a king can conquer Jerusalem, and therefore you're a king. Oh, so one, I'm right, you are a king. What you're complaining to me, if you're a king, why did I come earlier? I'll tell you why. He says, the brutes among the Jews wouldn't let me come out to see. I was trying. So he said to him, he says, what's that? Let me give you a parable. Let's say you had a barrel of honey and there's a snake wrapped around it. So you would break the barrel to get rid of the snake. You should breach the walls of Yerushalayim, so we can come in and get rid of the brutes. You should have yourself breached the walls of the city. Ishtik. So Yochanan did not answer. He was quiet. Yosef said, he said, he said, that's what the pasuk says. Hashem turns the wise men backwards and makes their understanding foolish. Even Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai was lost. He should have said to them, he should have said, no, what we don't do, we don't break the barrel to get rid of the snake. We take up pincers and get rid of the snake and leave the barrel whole. I should have gotten rid of the Brionim. I was right. But Katlina lane, and we kill the snake. The Chavita Shabtina lane, we leave the barrel. In the meantime, so a messenger came from Rome. Amarle, and they said to Vespasian, Kum domis le Caesar. He says, get up because the king has died. The case of Caesar has died. And the noblemen of Rome, they say, they want to make you the king. They want to make you the Caesar. Okay, and he was at that time when he was speaking to Yochanan, he had one shoe on and one shoe off. What happened after he got this good news? He wanted to put the second shoe on. He couldn't get his other shoe on. His foot was swollen. He couldn't get his other shoe on. Okay, he wanted to take the first shoe off. He couldn't get it off. Amr, he says, what's going on here? Amr, so the rabbi said to him, look, it's tired. Don't worry about it. He says, Shmua Tova Asilach, you got good news, or your feet swelled. That's why your shoe won't come off, and why you can't put your shoe on. It's written Shmua Tova to Dash Netzim. When a guy gets good news, the pasuk says it makes the bones fat. Here's what you should do. You want to get your shoe off or your shoe on? Here's what you should do. Late the Inish, the low. Get a guy who you don't like to walk in front of you. Get a guy you can't stand to walk in front of you. And to walk in front of you because it's written when a guy is vexed, it makes his bones dry out. It makes it shrink. Get a guy you don't like to walk in front of you. Your foot will unswell. You'll get your shoes off and on. So he did it. And his shoe was able to go in. Amrle said to him, he said, since you're such a wise rabbi, so why didn't you show up earlier? You're so smart. Why didn't you show up earlier? Amrle said to him, he said, I already told you I was stuck because of the brutes in the Sibriyanim. Amrle says, I already told you should have opened the city, let me in. And then anyway, Amrle, he said, so Vespasian said, I'm going to go back to Rome. I'm going to send somebody back here to take over the city. But in the meantime, ask me something, I'll give it to you. Ask me, I'll do you a favor. Tell me what you want. So Rav Yochanan Zaki said to him, give me Yavne and its wise men. Give me the whole family, the whole lineage of Rabban Gamliel. And give me doctors to heal Rabbi Tzadok who's dying from fasting so much. So the rabbi said about him again, again, even Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, Hashem turns the wise men backwards and makes the understanding of even the wise men foolish sometimes. Okay, I violated the member. You like he should have said to him, here, so leave Yerushalayim alone. Here, don't. He should have asked for Jerusalem. He says, "Who?" I said, "What do Rabbi Yochanan think?" He thought maybe he'll never get such a big favor out of Vespasian. That friendly he's not going to be. And I won't even save anything. Better to save a little. That's why he didn't answer. He thought he wouldn't get it. Okay. What was the cure they did for Rabbi Tzadok? Because he was a rail. Yom HaKama, the first day, they gave him water that had bran soaked in it. The next day they gave him water that had bran and flour soaked mixed in. The next day they gave actually water that had like coarse grain dissolved flour. Until his intestines, got bigger and bigger, he was able to eat normally. Also, Shadu Latitus, after that, his Vespasian sent Titus to come and destroy Jerusalem. Titus was a wicked man. He says, Where's that God? Where's their protector? Come out here. Where's that Jewish God? I'll fight you. I don't care. So where are you? Okay. Titus of Russia. This is Titus the Russia who insulted and blasphemed against Hashem. Also, what did he do? He took a whore. He went into the holy of holies of the temple, and he spread on the Sefer Torah. And he did a foul, filthy act on the Sefer Torah. And then he took a sword and he slashed Esaprochus, the curtain of the holy of holies. And a miracle happened. And blood came bubbling out of the curtain. Hashem, to show Hashem's how horrible it was what was happening. Okay, and this idiot, this Vespasian society, must have killed God. He thought he killed God. Shenemar said, your enemies are going to crawl out. They're going to believe that their stupidity is true. He thinks he killed God. Abba Chanan says, who's like you, the protector Hashem? Who's like you, protector and hard? Russia. God, how could you hear the insulting and blaspheming of that Russia? They cannot say anything. He said, who's like you, like the strong ones? Rather, who's like you among the mute ones? How can you be quiet when this Russia is doing these terrible things? Not he took the curtain that was he took this bloody curtain. He made it like a container. He took all the utensils of the base of Mikdash and he put it into there. And he put him on a boat. He's going to go and exalt himself in Rome. Get back. Hey, look what I did! I conquered the base of Mikdash, killed God, and brought back the utensils of the base of Mikdash. Shneimers said, I saw the pasuk says, we'll explain it. Instead of reading that these guys should be buried, the Rishonim gathered together. Not they're forgotten. They're going to praise themselves in their Rome. No, what the Goyim got the stuff that was buried, that was hidden. What the Afilu, even the precious things that had been hidden in the base of Mikdash, Igayim were revealed to the Goyim. So this Russia is going on the boat to go exalt himself in Rome with the Kalim of Mikdash. A big storm came up at sea, Latova, to drown him. Omar, he says, he's what a Russian this guy says. He says, the Jewish God, he can only fight on water. He's a weak God. He can only fight on water. Paro came against the Jews. He drowned him in the sea. But Sisera, remember, he was drowned in the Nachal Kishon River. And now God's coming to get me in the water. He's a weakling. He only fights where he's good at, in the water, he says. In Gibarhu, if that God's a God, Yalla B'Yabasha, let him come to the dry land. Come to the dry land and make war with me. A Baskol, a heavenly voice came out and said to him, Russia ben Benoshel Esav of Russia, wicked man, son of a wicked man, the grandson of Esav of the Russia. Birya Kala Yeshua. God said, listen, I have a teeny little creature in my world. It's a mosquito. I got a little thing. Amai Karile Birya Kala. And why is it called a little creature? The Ma'alona, it has a mouth to put food in, Isla, Umafakna, and a place for the expert to come on less like that. It's mamish, a little thing. Okay, God, get on dry land, like you said, and go do war with the smallest thing ever made in history, and you're gonna lose. That's how weak you are. So when Titus got to the dry land, a mosquito came into his nose, and it was pecking away at his brain. For 7 years, he tortured him. One day, Titus was tortured by this mosquito. He passed in front of the blacksmith. He'll bang you with a hammer. Shama kol arzavta. So he heard the sound of the hammer. Ishtik. All of a sudden, the mosquito stopped pecking in his brain. He had relief. Amar, he says, he says, there's a way to solve this problem. Okay. Kol yoma ma'isa nafcham ochel kamas. He brought every single day. He brought a different blacksmith in front of him to bang with a hammer to give him relief, to stop the mosquito from pecking at his brains. Okay. If the blacksmith was a guy, Okay, he paid him 4 zuz. The Israel for Jew is the blacksmith. He says, I'm not paying you. He says, it's enough pay for you to see your enemy suffering. He says, I'm not paying you for begging. Atlas and Yomin Abarachi. He did it for 30 days straight, and then he lost. Why? What happened? The mosquito got used to it, and it didn't help. And he went back to pecking at his brains. He was back tortured. Tanya Amar ben Aruba, and he says, I was amongst the noblemen when he died. When Titus died, they split his head open, and that mosquito was the size of a bird. That was the weight of 2 sellers. But Masnisa thought, we learned in the Brisa, Kagoza Bashana was bigger. It was like a bird, a year-old bird, Bishkal stay litrin, a weight of 2 litrin, very heavy. Okay, Amar Abai and Abai said, Laktina, and we have a tradition. Piv Shal Nechoshes, this mosquito was not a normal mosquito. Or this bird, whatever it was, it had a beak of copper, which he part of Shal Barazel, and its claws were made out of copper. Kievikal Mayas, when he was dying, iron. Yeah, iron. Okay, Kievikal Mayas, when he died, so Titus said to them, he says, now he's afraid of God. He says, Likluya Lahu Gabra, he said, burn me up, okay, Labadri Likitme, and spread my ashes, Ashab Maya. It spread it over the 7 different seas, spread my ashes. Why? So the God of the Jews shouldn't find me. So that was the story. So both I spoke to you because it's important. If this is not going to be real, what are we doing? What are we doing? And I just want to encourage you, and I tell you with all my heart, we're alive because we can do something, and that's why we still have Tisha B'Av. Otherwise, Tisha B'Av would be nullified. There'd be no Tisha B'Av. You understand? We're alive because we can solve it. We're alive because we can solve it. As long as you're breathing, you can. As long as it ain't. What's it? Ain't over
until it's over.
Yeah, ain't over till ain't over till the fat lady sings. As long as we're here, it ain't over. Believe me. Okay. God bless you. See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Rabbi.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
We got to right here.
Well, we're not late.
No, we're not late.
We're not late, Bechlam.
So finish the page. You want to finish the page?
No, that's a new story. It's a whole long story. That's a whole new story.
We're on time.
Yeah, why not? That's easy to read. To read a story.
How are you feeling?
Thank God.
God bless everybody.
So Rechem Zaka is there. Rechem Zaka is there.
Yeah.
He's the one who sees the expression on the Spice's face. He sees how he's responding to him. And a guy, dozens of years later, is going to come and tell him, seconds later, whatever. He's going to come and tell him.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Bye-bye.